It's just a few residents here. Thank you very much for joining us. And we're taking a look at the Lyndale Parkdale development. So this is a site plan application. Witchcraft already has permission to build the size of building they want, to put it to the use that they want. They have whatever parking permissions they need. So in the site plan process, we're talking about the details of the proposal. So I'm going to ask, and I'm sorry, who was I going to ask? Fiona, can you?
Me, Nico Church.
Oh, sorry, Nico. So I'm going to ask Nico to run us through the building, remind us what it is, and then we'll just throw it open to a conversation for until the questions get asked. In terms of process, staff have the delegated authority to approve the site plan. It won't go to a vote unless I force it to a vote, which would be very rare. We only see 2 or 3 site plans that are brought to planning committee any given term of council. So it's really staff who are going to have to determine whether or not to approve the site plan. But I am interested in sort of detailed feedback that we can then try to massage the proposal in directions that the community thinks are important. So Nico, take it away.
Sure, thank you, Councillor. Prish, would you mind loading up the presentation?
Sure, I just need to be enabled by someone.
You're enabled now.
Thank you.
While Prish is loading up the presentation, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Nico Church. I'm a planner with FOTEN. And along with several other consultants and Richcraft, we've been preparing this site plan control application. So I'm going to be speaking a little bit to the existing context as well as to the existing policies. I would assume that with the relatively small group of people that are here at this meeting tonight, most people will be quite familiar with the existing context. So I'm going to go through that quickly in order for us to get through the more exciting part of the presentation, the actual development, the actual building that is being proposed, and that will be Prish, who is an architect with tact. So anyway, I'll start off just by.
Sorry, Nico.
Yes.
I apologize. I also wanted to make sure folks knew that Jenny Kluk was here. Jenny is the city planner on the file who's going to end up making the recommendation.
Absolutely. So with respect to the context, Prish, if you want to move the slides forward. Thank you. So just looking at the existing context of the site, yeah, that's fine. So it's at the northeast corner of Parkdale and Lyndale Avenue in the Mechanicsville neighborhood. Just to the west is the Tunney's Pasture federal employment node, and it's roughly about 400 meters from the Tunney's Pasture transit station. So the current aerial imagery, it actually shows 3 buildings, but what's actually on the site now, it's a vacant lot. So those buildings have been demolished. And you really see a variety of built form in this area. You have quite a few mid to high rise buildings, whether it's residential along Parkdale or near Parkdale to the north and south of the site, as well as to the west, you have some federal office buildings that are quite tall as well. And to the east, you have a little bit more of a stable, low rise neighborhood that is really the center, the heart of Mechanicsville. So just looking at a few site photos, Prish, if you want to, thank you. There's just a few examples of existing or planned high-rise developments, including on the next slide. It just goes to show that what we're proposing is not necessarily out of context with the rest of the neighborhood. This will not be the first high-rise development in this area. In terms of the existing context, looking at the official plan, it's designated mixed-use center, and you see that usually near rapid transit stations. And it's really to encourage these areas to become transit-supportive mixed-use destinations. So they often advocate and encourage for a higher density and a greater mix of uses, and they do often encourage intensification. So in mixed-use centers, a broad variety of uses are permitted, including the ones that we'll be proposing, which is a high-rise development, a high-rise residential building, as well as some commercial ground floor space. And again, it does promote high densities in this area. With respect to the Scott Street Secondary Plan and Community Design Plan, again, mixed-use center designation advocates for a mix of uses and a pretty high density in this area. It does include some minimum density targets. And just to note, the building height limit for the subject property, the secondary plan does speak to this, but it only says actually for this property that is as per the existing zoning, which we'll note in a couple of slides. Just moving forward, we've had regard for a variety of urban design guidelines to make this building as appropriate as possible for the site and for the surrounding context. So this includes some design guidelines in the community design plan, as well as other guidelines that have been issued by the city, such as urban design guidelines for high-rise buildings, as well as transit-oriented development guidelines that speak to a variety of considerations that we've tried to incorporate in this building design. With respect to the zoning, on the next slide, this was approved in 2013, I believe. So the property was rezoned at the time, and this building envelope applies to the site. So where it says Area A is where the tower of the building is permitted, up to 97 meters, which translates to a little over 30 stories. And it does provide for some separation distances from the properties to the east and especially to the north. So that Area B, which is 11 meters wide, you can only build up to 11 meters in height. So as to give some separation between the proposed tower on this building and the 8-story apartment building just to the north. So moving forward, we've also gone through the Urban Design Review Panel. This is a group of architects who evaluate important development proposals for their design in the city of Ottawa. So we've already gone through an evolution of the design. And as Councillor Leeper has mentioned, this is a site plan control application. So we're really going through the nitty-gritty details of this development proposal. So we've just, we submitted back in July. We've just received comments back from the city, a first round of comments from the city. And over the next few months, just to give everyone an idea in terms of timeline, over the next few months, we'll be working with the city to resolve all of those remaining comments. Once those are resolved and we're able to enter into an agreement with the city, then at that time, Richcraft will be able to get some building permits issued in order to construct the building. So that's kind of where we're at in terms of the policy. Again, we're meeting all of the policy and zoning that applies currently to the site. This is strictly a site plan proposal. So with that in mind, I'll pass it off to Prish to speak a little bit more to the building design.
Thank you, Nico. Thank you, Councillor. And thank you to the residents that are here tonight. I'm going to go fairly in detail, but I'm going to go fairly quickly. If I've left anything out, please do ask me during the Q&A at the end of the session. My name is Prish Jain. I'm the principal of Tact Architecture. We're a firm that specializes and focuses exclusively on residential, mid-rise, and high-rise. We've won numerous awards, and this is our third project in Ottawa. We also did the Minto Beechwood project that finished about a year and a half ago. This first slide is typical views that we prepare to provide a general context of the building from all 4 different angles. Top left is a view looking towards the northeast. Parkdale is in the foreground. Lyndale is here. The river being at the top towards the north. Top right, this is a view looking northwest. Lyndale is in your foreground. Bottom left, this is a view looking southeast. This is Parkdale, existing building under construction, nearly complete. Lyndale along here, and then Scott Street back here. And then bottom right, a view looking southwest. Existing building again nearing completion on the right. And then Parkdale behind the buildings in the mid-ground. This page I'm going to just go through it very quickly, but I'll come back to it during the Q&A. As Nico had mentioned, zoning has been approved on this site. We are within the height that's permitted. We're actually under it. All the setbacks, front, sides, rear, interiors, they're all being met. The gross floor area, or GFA, for the building is 17,503 square meters. And a density, or FSI, of 12.74 times, 267 units, an amenity space requirement that we are far exceeding, 1,600 required, 3,600 being proposed, combination of indoor and outdoor. Parking spaces that are required are 40. We're providing 167 for 267 units. And in terms of bicycle parking, we're also over providing by approximately 7 spots at a number of 142. Again, I don't mean to go over too quickly, but I will come back to this if anyone has further questions. Moving along, this is a streetscape diagram that we typically prepare. This is showing essentially a streetscape along Parkdale looking east. So Scott Street would be here, the new train station, train line along here, and then the existing buildings shown in gray, the proposal, the new buildings under construction, and then the orange line stipulating a new datum or a podium height wall where existing and proposed buildings are to conform to. Moving along to the site plan, this is Parkdale on your left, north towards the top, Lyndale at the bottom, the existing city-owned public lane towards the east. The Parkdale side and the Lyndale side have a 3-meter setback for the tower and the podium, which is here. Within that 3 meters, there's a 1.5 meter projection for balconies at their maximum offset. Some balconies are shallower, but the maximum depth of the balcony is 1.5 meters into the 3-meter setback. On the north side, there's an 11-meter setback for the tower portion, and there's an 11-meter high height restriction into which we have put 3 stories. On the east side, there's a 4.5 meter setback and then a 6-meter wide public lane. With that, I'm going to go right into the nitty-gritty of the ground floor plan and just walk you through how the ground floor is going to work. I'll start at the top left. In orange, or it's orange on my screen, what's showing are two-story grade-related suites. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. They're grade-related suites. They have their front doors located off the sidewalk. There's a private terrace. There's a planter. Then there's a boulevard, and then there's the sidewalk. There's privacy between and a grade change between the sidewalk and the private terraces. Moving further south, this is a pedestrian entrance into the lobby of the building from Parkdale Avenue, from the sidewalk. At the corner is approximately 1,300 square feet of retail space, which has an adjacent patio towards the west and towards the south. The retail space can spill out onto the patio. The patio is then buffered by a landscaped area, and then you have the sidewalk, and then you have the street. Similarly, same situation applies to Lyndale. There's retail, then a patio, then a planted area, and then the sidewalk, and then the street. Moving further around the building, there is the access into the city-owned city-owned public lane. Then from that public lane, there is a single one-way access around for vehicles to drop off and pick up. The way that would work is that there is an additional through lobby condition. This is a double height space. It's glass. Pedestrians can walk in from one side and pedestrians can walk in through a vestibule as they're dropped off or picked up from the drop-off pickup area. They can walk in through the vestibule and walk in through the lobby from the rear of the building as well. There's a concierge that sits in the middle. Concierge will have eyes both on the rear of the building, the front of the building, and also into the center portion of the building. Moving further along, there are mail rooms, parcel rooms, and moving areas, and then back of house garbage and sorting areas, all internal to the building. And then at the northeast corner is the access into the below grade parking garage, which is accessed from here off of the public lane, which is accessed off of Lyndale. So vehicles would drive in from Lyndale, go onto the public lane, and then drive into an enclosed area, and then drive down the ramp into the below grade parking garage. I know I'm speaking a mile a minute, but that's roughly how the ground floor plan works in terms of its functions and its programming. The typical parking plan, it looks something like this. Center core with perimeter parking. It's about as efficient as we can make it in order to get as much parking as we can into the below grade areas. The P1 level is different than all the typical parking plans. The P1 level has all of the bicycle parking accommodated at a very convenient location near the bottom of the ramp. It also has all of your mechanical areas, stormwater tanks, fire and water pump rooms, transformer vaults, electrical rooms, and IT rooms. So P1 level is generally less efficient in terms of parking, but that's because it accommodates many other uses that are required to be as close and easily accessible by the occupants as possible. Moving up the building, second floor. So these are the upper levels of the grade-related two-story suites. These two-story suites also have access from within the building, from the second level, accessed by the elevators and through a corridor. What's also located on this floor are what's a requirement, are storage lockers. These are separate from bicycle storage. These are storage lockers for occupants and residents of the building. The area that's shown here with the angled lines are a double height space. They're open to below. This is the lobby area, which is glass on both sides and around the corner. And then this is the retail space, which is also a double height space. I'm going to have some images to show you in a few slides. This is the third floor. This is still part of the podium. The two different colors denote the two-bedroom suites in the pinkish color, and then one-bedroom suites shown in the gray. Suites facing east will have terraces facing east, and then a mechanical room for the pool located above on the outdoor amenity area immediately above. This is the fourth floor, and this floor is entirely dedicated to amenity space. This floor is set in from the podium below on all three sides. It's set in from Parkdale, from Lyndale, and from the east. And on the north side, the outdoor amenity area is located contiguous to the indoor amenity area. The programming and design of all of this amenity area is still being resolved and being fine-tuned, but the amount and the location of the amenity area is as we are showing it here. There's a pool. We're showing some outdoor seating area here, some outdoor seating area here, lounge chairs, and then all access directly to the interior area via a series of doors or connections that would bring it into the inside areas. This is the typical floor. Everything above the fourth floor, save and except for the penthouse levels. The one bedrooms range approximately 550 square feet, and the two bedrooms approximately 850 square feet. Now, the top three levels are what we're calling the penthouse levels. The building on the top three levels starts to step back at the south west corner, creating a terracing condition, which I'm going to show you in a minute, in terms of how the building recedes and steps away from the corner as it gets to the mechanical penthouse. Elevations, both east and west, here along Parkdale. Here you see the amenity area, the 3-story podium with the 2-story grade-related units, the 2-story high retail space, mechanical at the top of the building. North and south elevations. Again, here you see the height restrictions for different components as per the height map and as per the zoning that was previously approved. All of this conforms to that zoning approval from many years ago. This is a more detailed elevation along Parkdale. This is an elevation showing you the materials, the coloration of those materials, as well as we can do it at this early stage. We are showing here a raised private planting, a raised private patio area separated by a planter, separated by a metal gate for each individual entry for these 2-story suites. There would be a wood or wood look canopy located more intimately closer to the ground plane at this location. The third level, which would be here, this is the entrance to this is the pedestrian entrance to the lobby. And then this is the double height retail space with the patios spilling out on the west and on the south side. In terms of what the glass railings are made out of, although they look very solid here, it's hard to emulate what it is exactly that we're trying to show, but these are actually glass balconies that have a fritted pattern on it. And this fritted pattern will obscure whatever is placed in the balcony, so people from the street will not be able to see it. And then it also creates some privacy for the occupants within the building as well. A view zoomed back a bit further, showing the entire building. Here you see how the top 3 stories of the building are stepping away as you get taller. They're moving further away from the south and ending in a mechanical rooftop, where we like to incorporate the design of the mechanical as part of the building design instead of just adding it or throwing it to the top of the building. Here you see the outdoor amenity area located at the north side of the building. Another view looking south east, Parkdale in the foreground. We're trying to create a very rhythmic pattern of this fritted glass balconies so that the building is more articulate than normally. And again, the building is articulated so that it steps back from the south side as it gets to the top. View looking northeast. Here again, you see the 2-story retail space, the top of the building. One of the comments that the Urban Design Review Panel had made was that previously we had this corner where we had the balconies, and the Design Review Panel suggested that this corner perhaps be free of balconies and replaced with, and the balconies be placed elsewhere as opposed to on this corner, in order to lighten the corner up for the podium and for the from a street scale perspective. This is a closer up view from the intersection of Parkdale, Lyndale, retail, outdoor patio, the private gardens, terraces with individual gates, the more intimate canopies located here, the grander canopy located around the retail. The amenity space, which is all recessed, and it's dedicated, the entire 4th floor is dedicated to the amenity. Another view of Parkdale. Another view looking down Parkdale towards the south. This is a view of along Lyndale. This is the access to the public lane, and then the drop-off pickup area. Another pedestrian door for the drop-off pickup area leading to a vestibule, leading into a lobby. And then drop-off pickup vehicles will then exit back onto Lyndale in a one-way direction and then back out onto Parkdale or to the other side. I think this is the last slide. The top of the building, again, just showing the articulation as the building recedes up towards the horizon. It starts to step back towards the mechanical space. This is a section taken through a typical condition, Parkdale, the sidewalk, the walkway or a planter, a few steps, a private planter, a terrace area, a front door, and then the two-story suite. So again, that's shown here. So this shows how the front door is not at the level of the sidewalk. It's slightly raised, very comfortable, 2 or 3 steps, but there's also internal access for this two-story suite located off the corridor from the 2nd floor. The amenity space located here on the 4th level, again, recessed in from the face of the podium and the face of the tower. That's it. Thank you. And I need a glass of water.
Fantastic. Thank you. Get my video going here. Thank you very much, Prish and Nico. So a whole whack of folks joined us during the presentation. So we're up to 26 people on the call now, still a nice small group. So we've promoted everybody to be a panelist, which means that they can speak and be on video if they'd like. What I said at the beginning, and I think Nico also mentioned it, this is a site plan application. So the basic zoning is approved, how big a building is it, and to what use can it be put, how many parking spots does it have, etc. But during site plan, there are changes to materials that the planners can urge. We take a look at how the driveways work, you know, the fenestration. There's a bunch of details that are part of the site plan application. It is a staff decision to approve the site plan or not. I can force that site plan to a vote, but that is extremely rare. So as a follow-up to this meeting, be sure to send your feedback as you think more about it to both Jenny, and I would ask you to consider copying me on that as well, so that we can talk to the developers about the feedback that we're getting on this one. So with that, I just wanted to ask Fiona to take the meeting back over.
Okay, hi everyone. So we're gonna do it a little bit differently than how we've been doing them, in case you've checked out one of the recordings we've thrown on YouTube or attended another one of these. We've been having quite a few recently. So you're all panelists. If you would prefer to type your question, you can't submit a Q&A as a panelist, but you can put something in the chat. So you would click the chat and you would want to make sure it's being sent to all panelists and attendees, and then we'll be able to see your question. And if we see one of those questions, I can read it out loud. If you don't want me to read it out loud, maybe you just want Jeff to respond to you privately or something like that, just indicate that, and that's not a problem. And then beyond that, if you would like to turn on your mic or turn on your video and ask a question, I'm just gonna ask that you raise your hand, and I will take them in the order that I see them, and I will do my best to see who's put up their hand first, but please forgive me if I get it slightly wrong. I don't want anyone to feel slighted, and I'll try to make sure everyone has the opportunity to ask one question, and then we'll go back through that list again. So if you do want to ask a question, I'd ask it just one question for now, and we'll do a round of everyone who wants to ask questions, and then we'll come back to you if that's okay. So I see one hand raised right now, Stacy. I'm not sure if that's intentional or not, but you are welcome to unmute yourself and ask a question if you have one. Okay. Oh,
hi, sorry, I think I figured it out. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, perfect. Okay, yes. So for context, I live across the street, so I'm quite concerned about traffic and trucks and cars and whatnot. So my question is, where are the moving trucks, delivery trucks, any type of vehicle going to be situated for move-ins, move-outs, deliveries, etc.? Considering that Lindale has 0 room for any of that right now.
Sure, I can answer that. Thank you, Stacy, for your question. First of all of the moving areas are and holding rooms for occupants moving in and out of the building are internal to the building. So there are doors located off of the public lane, both into this area here, which is, can everyone see my cursor? Yeah. So into this area here. This area has a direct access to the back of a moving elevator. And there's also another area here for bulk storage. Again, it's located internal to the building. And in addition to those areas, there's also other holding rooms for drop off and pickup of parcels and mail, but those are accessed from the front, from this location here. But moving occurs off the lane directly into a holding area and off of the public lane. Similarly, might as well, somebody is going to ask about how garbage is handled, and I didn't address that in my presentation. All the garbage for the building is collected internal to the building. All the garbage for the building is stored internal to the building. On garbage day, trucks would stop on Lindale. Bins would be rolled out in advance at the end of the lane. Garbage bins would be picked up, and then the bins would be rolled back and stored internally. Bins are never expected to be located and situated outside on any permanent basis. Hope that answers some of your questions, concerns.
I'm not sure if I can do a follow-up, but Fiona, please interrupt me if I'm not allowed. But I'm just wondering.
I think it's okay. Go ahead.
Like I don't see how you're going to have multiple trucks there. I don't quite understand. So if you could maybe explain it to me. So a moving truck is going to go down the lane and then they're turning into that little corridor. Like it doesn't look like it's a driveway.
No.
Like, can you explain that?
Okay, so the issue of multiple trucks, all the buildings of this scale will always schedule move-ins and move-outs so that there's only one occupant either moving in or moving out at a time.
Okay.
That's all highly controlled and on a scheduled basis. The truck would not be pulling into the building. The truck would actually stop on the lane and load and unload into the building. And then upon completion, the truck would simply drive out. So either the truck pulls up right beside the doors, or it backs in and pulls up right beside the doors, loads, unloads, and then exits back in a forward motion. So they're not expected to pull in. The only vehicles that are pulling into the building are the residents that are parking their cars below grade, which is accessed from this location and this location through an overhead door, which is marked by the X.
Okay, thank you, Stacy. If you have any more you want to add, feel free to get back in the queue. Fong, I have a written question for you that I'll read out loud, and then you can let me know if you'd like to say anything on mic. So your written question is, can you provide more details on the subterranean construction on the city-owned laneway? Does the underground parking encroach on the laneway?
Okay. So thank you for the question. So the property line is right where my cursor is. This is the heavy dashed line, or on grid line 6. From grid line 6, that's the extent of our client's property. And then from there, there is a city-owned public lane of 6 meters width from there to this location. Below grade, there's a portion of the below grade of the lane, not the entire 6 meters, but I'd say about 4 meters of it, which does encroach below grade for all of the parking levels. So from parking levels 1 through 5, there is a subsurface easement that would be required to facilitate the parking, the most efficient parking on for this proposal. Without that 4 meters of below grade or subterranean easement, the parking would be, there would be less parking for this proposal. That would be because it would not be very feasible to have that inefficient parking without that 4 meters below the city lane. And again, that area is from this heavy line to the foundation wall.
Okay, thank you. Fong, does that answer your question, or did you want to add anything else?
Yeah, thanks for the explanation there. So I represent Parkdale Muse, which is about 30 units of townhouses directly behind the proposal. It looks like the parking lot is a fairly deep construction. It does. This area is a big concern for the residents that who live here. So, you know, we are concerned about how it is constructed, and it does encroach very close onto our property. We do have retaining wall along that side. So we're looking for assurances on how the construction is done and how it affects our property as well. I'd imagine there would be significant effects on our foundations and the structures that keep our foundations intact. So that's something that we want to discuss with the developer on how that goes forward. We do have a number of specific issues as well. So I could also go through those points. But that's my main issue, is how the laneway gets developed, how the space is taken up, and how it affects the quality of our life of the residents at our townhouse.
Kevin, oh, sorry if I may, Kevin, would you be able to commit tonight to sitting down with representatives from the Muse?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, that's without question. We would sit down with the residents, and once we have a clearer scope of work that we're doing in the laneway area and directly adjacent to existing fences, retaining walls, and our own underground design, then we'll have more information that we can share. We have built high-rise buildings in the past that abut other private landowners as well, and we've come across, you know, fences and retaining walls, high sides, low sides, and we've managed to work out agreements and understandings with these neighbors that either no disturbance will happen on their property, or there is a disturbance on the shared property line, and we try to predict what that is ahead of time. And in regards to potential damages to foundations, this is definitely a concern of everybody involved, not only of people living in those homes, but, you know, the likes of a developer like us going in and making sure that we do not disrupt or cause any damage to any of our neighbors. What happens typically and by law and the city will enforce this through the site plan. And we'll also have to do it from our own insurance and liability reasons, is they do a pre-construction inspection of certain houses or foundations in a radius that is determined by the type of construction we're doing. So there shouldn't be a concern of a lack of pre-inspection and post-inspection from any neighbor in this regard. It doesn't mean that something may or may not happen, and that's not the case. It's just the case that the inspections are routine. Thank you.
I'll also add at this point, it's great that Kevin will speak with the Muse directly, but for everyone else, we do make a pre-construction meeting a special site plan condition. So when Richcraft is ready to move forward, before shovels get in the ground, we'll host a pre-construction meeting where we'll have lots more information about the construction process. Okay.
I have asked that, before we get to construction process, that we do have consensus between, Parkdale, Muse, and the developer, that we're satisfied with the plan well before plans for construction start. For me, I need to go back to my to the residences and discuss with them on whatever changes or mitigation plans we have, and that they are satisfied with whatever plans, and it's very important for us to be all in agreement, that we can work together before we get to any kind of construction. So that's I want to put that out there, that we want to look for agreement and consensus before we get to that stage.
Understood. Thank you. Fong, if you have more questions, I'll come back to you in the queue. So next up, M. Jolie, question, transportation brief, addendum number 1, page 2, response/comment 4, third paragraph in response. City staff suggested these rates were too high. We disagree. The question, please can the city elaborate the rates are high compared to what? And who does the city disagree with? How high is the vehicle count on Parkdale to 417 compared to average?
It's Andrew Hart from CGH. I've seen there's a couple questions there about the transportation addendum. Those were prepared for the zoning by another consultant, so I can't comment directly on their thoughts on their comments, but as part of the site plan, we did conduct a new transportation study. So I'm assuming you were looking at the development applications page and reading through those documents. I'd refer you to the top section, all dated 2020-07-27. There is a TIA report that we conducted there, and it discusses a lot more of those things. So I think anything referring to those old addendums are out of date and superseded by the new traffic study.
Okay, thank you. Did that fully answer the question, M. Jolie? You can let us know in the chat if not. Otherwise, I will. Yes, go ahead.
I'm just going to speak up with your permission. If you can type it here, the actual document where you have the new study, the reference to it, and your response to it, that would be nice. Because yeah. We can't hear you. Yeah, you need to type it.
Yeah, I'll copy the link into the chat for you to the development applications, and then you can, it's close to the top of the page, so you can find the TIA report dated the most recent one. So if you want to review that and have any questions back, feel free to contact us through Jenny or the counselor's office, and we can provide a written response at that time. But in general, for the traffic on Parkdale all the way to the 417, that was outside of our study area all the way to the 417. So there are traffic volume counts for Scott and Parkdale, so you can see the volumes at that point. But as you get closer to the highway, they would increase as you hit more and more local roadways. So it's kind of a moving target to answer that directly.
Okay, thank you. Next question is from Lori, who's the president, I believe, of the Mechanicsville Community Association. Will the lane be two ways? Will the lane be opened all the way or just the length of the building?
I can answer part of that question. The lane is currently wide enough so that it can be two ways ultimately. That's the only part I can answer. It is wide enough. It's built to a certain standard, 6 meters in width, with no overhangs or cantilevers beyond it. So it can accommodate a standard two-directional traffic on this lane. As for the second part of your question, I'm probably not the right person to be able to answer that.
It's Kevin from Richcraft here, just to add on. Prish highlighted the area that we're interested in is basically adjacent to the building. If you follow the laneway all the way through north up to, I think it's Burnside, there are buildings and other structures impeding the complete connection to make it what we would think of as a right-of-way. But I think the remaining part of this laneway would be left to the city to decide what they do.
Okay, thank you. Next question is from Cheryl with the Hintonburg Community Association. Will you be using bird-friendly glass on the windows and cladding? I see the balconies are fritted glass, which is great.
Yes, so all the balconies all the way up the building will be using a fritted glass. Again, for those of you who don't know what that means, it's not clear glass, it's not frosted glass, it's glass that has a pattern that is embedded within it. And as we get closer to construction, we'll be having samples made, we'll be testing them in terms of how they look and they appear. But fritted glass almost certainly prevents issues with migration of birds hitting them. With regards to other portions of the building, certainly down on the lower portions of the building, I'm not sure at this point if it's a requirement or not, but the podium is only 3 levels high. Typically, the bird-friendly glass is for higher podiums, but we can certainly look into that further. If it's not a site plan requirement, we can certainly look into it further as we go through the detailed process.
Okay, thanks. Jeff, did you want to ask a question now?
Only if it's my turn.
It can be your turn, or you can go in the queue.
In the queue is great, thanks.
Okay. Okay, so next question from Vicky. We talked a little bit about construction, but do you have any high level, do you have any idea when you might start construction?
Kevin, do you want to address that one?
Yeah, sure. Ideally, we'd like to go through this site plan process and complete it this year. And in the meantime, there's a lot of coordination with neighbors, coordination with the architect and the working drawings and details, as well as utilities, specifically hydro. So there's several issues to work through, but like I was getting at, the ideal time for construction would probably be May or June next year. And the duration is for a building like this would typically be about 2 years or so, maybe a little bit longer. Prish, you might have a better idea of this scale of building. We've built, Richcraft has built buildings of this size when it comes to units and square footage, but we've never gone to 30 stories before. So Prish, maybe you can talk about your estimate of timing for construction?
Yeah, I would say that typically we estimate about a week and a half per level, plus the below grade, plus the podium. So 30 stories, that's about 45 weeks. And then with 5 levels of below grade, that's very complicated, very tight site. So I think 2 years is a very good target for a building of this scale. What's also good about it is that above the amenity level, so from level 5 all the way up to level 26, aside from the differentiation of the balconies, the floors are fairly typical all the way up. So that makes for the pace of construction to go much faster than it would otherwise.
Sorry, couldn't get unmuted. Thank you. Next question from Justin, also on construction. What disruptions to the neighborhood will be necessary in order to have a staging area for your construction?
I can attempt to answer that. Let me go back to the site plan drawing. Oops. I think because we have that, because there's a lane that's at the back, that lane will significantly help in terms of staging. Sorry about this. Because it's not going to be as trafficked as Parkdale are and as Lindale are. So this area here, even though 4 meters of it, there is a below grade component. So I would estimate that there would be some requirement for closure both along Lindale, or at least along Lindale, and maybe even both along Lindale and Parkdale. But I'm not the expert in construction staging, but once you get out of the ground and the ground floor slab is poured, then the area, the 6 meter wide area of the lane can be utilized for deliveries and for staging, taking the onus off of Parkdale and or Lindale upon the completion of the below grade component. Yeah, getting out of the ground is the most difficult. Once the project emerges out of the ground, then the next most difficult is the podium, which is from 1 to 4. And then once you get to the 5th floor and up, it will be smoother sailing all the way up to the top penthouse levels of the building.
Thank you. Jeff, it's your turn for a question.
Yay, and I'm just wondering, can you please pull up a view of the entire building?
Sure.
Thanks. There we go. That's great. Yeah. So this is, and I'm sorry, I'm not an architect, obviously. This is a little better looking than most of the buildings that were being seen proposed for particularly Scott Street. I know at the last planning committee meeting, we had a discussion about the building on Albert. I can't, excuse me, I think, oh, it was Claridge's building on Albert. And, you know, it kind of wowed the planning committee with respect to the more distinctive architecture. And we raised the Claridge building icon as something that was shown really distinctive, and then became something less distinctive once it was actually built. On Albert, the planners were able to describe what made the building distinctive. I think they spoke to the curvilinear windows and stuff like that, and they hinged the site plan to that. They actually hinged the zoning to that, but they wanted to see a site plan that had the same features in it. I'm wondering what kind of commitment you can make, and maybe Jenny can weigh in with respect to site plan conditions that speak to this better architecture than what we've been seeing in the neighborhood. Forgive me if that's convoluted. I'm just not sure quite how to pose that. Is there a way to describe what we like about this architecture and then make sure that that's what gets built?
I mean, typically we tie the approval to the elevations that we approve. In this case, I mean, I think the file you're referring to is Andrew McCrate. So I mean, I can have a discussion with him to see what he's doing with that one.
Okay.
And maybe we can do the same thing here.
There's some interesting variation around it, and I just think it's a little funkier looking than most of the buildings.
Yeah, I mean, we'd also have to work with Richcraft, because I know sometimes, like, when they value engineer stuff, it just becomes not feasible. So,
and that's I am hoping that Kevin will agree to work with us maybe on a condition like that, so that it doesn't get value engineered away.
Yeah.
I can just make a small comment on that as well. Because our firm focuses almost exclusively on residential architecture, I can say with confidence that all residential condominium driven buildings are always about the bottom line. And our mandate in our studio is to make sure that the buildings we design are not dressed to just make them look attractive at the outset. We consider cost as we design, and we try to design as effectively and efficiently as possible from the get-go. So I'm not saying that value engineer is not a reality, it always happens, but we challenge ourselves to come up with a design for a building that will be hard to value engineer. So that's really our mandate, and it's proven successful for other projects we've completed, dozens and dozens, many of which we have won awards for, including OAA Design Excellence Awards. So we're confident that the combination of our design and Richcraft's reputation, that this project will deliver.
And Jeff, I appreciate what you're saying, and I know what you're saying. A lot of the talk about some of these high rises in town it's a bit of a bait and switch. Like you show the pretty picture, you get approved, and then you know what I mean. The owner can go back and make an amendment to a site plan. They can revise their glass. They can revise their balconies as long as they stay within the zoning. It's not unheard of. I understand that. Our intent is to fulfill Parish's design as much as we can, because we love the design, and we're this far through the process that we want to be able to create this. The thing about these projects and every other project is it does come down to what we can source, how much these things are going to cost. And we don't know that until we're ready at let's say at the checkout counter. You know what I mean? Like we were shopping around, this looks great, we want it, we put it in our basket, but we're not sure how much exactly it's going to cost. So we will do our best to implement this vision, and I think we've done pretty well in the past on our buildings. And this is a new type of venture for us, building a glass tower of this height. So we're going to do our best, Jeff.
Yeah, no, it's and obviously we're not going to solve it tonight, but it is a discussion I kind of want to pursue a little bit further. The 30-story buildings become landmark buildings in our official plan, and I think as a city we need to start holding developers to creating an interesting skyline. If we're going to go tall around our transit stations, I'd like that to be as interesting as possible. Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks, Jenny. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Trish.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have Kathy. Is lighting along the laneway motion detector activated or on all the time? And will the fixtures be shielded to limit sideways direction towards the townhomes?
Great questions, but entirely too early at this stage. But all great questions, which I'm sure can be raised during the construction or pre-construction meetings that were discussed just recently. So those are all, but all of that is very simply possible. There can be visors on the lights. They can be motion activated. They can also be programmed to go off at a certain time at night. All of that is very reasonably easily possible, but much too early in the process at this stage.
I'll just add, we typically have a condition that they submit a site lighting certificate. And I think, I mean, that's not my area of expertise, but I think it's to deal with light pollution on neighboring properties and things like that. So we would be looking at that at a later stage.
And I do believe that there's like a lighting bylaw as well, Jenny, right? That they would have to adhere to with a plan?
I'm not entirely sure, but I think that they wouldn't be able to like create a situation that creates a negative impact on the neighboring properties.
For sure. Okay, thank you. Next up, we have Fong again. You've typed 2 comments, so I'll read them one at a time, and then if you'd like to add to them, let me know. So the first one is about the laneway. The trees in the laneway between the development and Parkdale Muse do not seem to show up in the tree conservation report. Those trees should be included in the report. What are the plans for these trees, and what are the restoration plans, if any? There is a garage door and garage exhaust flush with concrete facing our residences. Not only this adds significant concerns on dirty air being exhausted on our patios and residents, but will likely lead to high ventilation noise 24 hours a day. So I'll start with that.
I can answer, actually I could probably answer or talk about some of them of aspects of both questions. First, with regards to the trees on the lane, I believe you're talking about the trees that are currently located in the 6-meter lane portion. And the reason why I understand that they're not in the report is because they're on city-owned property. They're within that 6-meter laneway area from this property line to this property line. So that's the reason why they are likely not in the report. All the trees within the property that's owned by Richcraft would be within the report. With regards to the venting and the exhaust, so it's perhaps not an answer that people want to hear, but having designed dozens of buildings in urban areas like this is what laneways are for. Laneways, you cannot exhaust you cannot use the front of the building either on Parkdale or on Lyndale to perform functional or more mechanical type of requirements, because those are the public faces of those buildings. Laneways are for servicing the building. They are for access. They are for utilities. They are for mechanical. That's what they're there for. 6 meters is a 20-foot separation. It's quite typical even in the city of Toronto. The podium here is only 3 stories tall. Numerous other sites, podiums are 8 or 9 stories tall. In this case, it's 3 stories. So it's likely not the answer that people want to hear, but 6 meters is more than adequate to provide the functional necessities of a building of this scale to be utilized on the east side where it's really necessary to do so. It can't be done on the west side, can't be done on the south side, and it can't be done on the north side because it's all unconditioned on the north.
I'd just like to say that we, the residents, we do gain a lot of benefit from the laneway being essentially a green space, and these trees there are mature trees. We do question whether there's any protective measures in place for these types of mature trees. But in general, it does provide us a lot of benefit in terms of blocking of noise and visibility for both sides, like for our houses and the development as well. So, I mean, if there are any alternatives to removing the screen space, and we'd like to hear it. I don't think any of us wants to see this neighborhood, turn into a concrete jungle either. So we do value the space, and we'd like to see, if there are additional ideas or anything like that.
Can I just add something? I think along with the transportation study, I think people are looking at the outdated reports. So the 2012 tree conservation report probably doesn't reference those trees because I don't think at that time Ridgecraft was planning to utilize that lane. I might be wrong about that, but the landscape plans that we have from 2020 do show those trees. Our forestry department is circulated on every site plan application, so I can raise these concerns with them. Since they are city-owned trees, they will need to get permission to remove them. So there is a process for that. And yeah, we can have those discussions about the best solution. But I mean, in some cases, in order to accommodate development, sometimes some trees need to be removed, and there's a plan to provide replacement trees on the site to ensure that they're, whatever tree cover is being removed is replaced adequately.
Fong, I'd like to do a walkthrough with you in the lane at some point. Can you touch base with my office, and we'll arrange that?
Okay, yeah, we can do that. That'd be appreciated. Sure, I'll touch base with your office. Thank you.
I've made note too. And yeah, Fong, your second question was about the transportation study from 2012. Hopefully you saw Jeff's response that there is an updated transportation study, but let me know if you have any other questions on that. Otherwise, I'm gonna move on to Stacy. So is the height of the building confirmed? I find it amusing / unconvincing that it was said to be in contact with the other buildings when it is beside townhomes and a 6-story condo. It is absolutely not in context.
I can answer that. So the building that's proposed is entirely within the zoning that was approved previously. In some cases, it's actually even less.
If I may just add, in speaking to the context, we understand looking east, there is a difference in height between what is proposed here and what is to the east. But this particular application would replicate the street condition that is found quite often on the east side of Parkdale, where you do see a lot of high-rise developments that are either existing or planned or in construction. Also, with the fact that we are in close proximity to rapid transit, this is density in these locations is a priority. Obviously, we do want to make sure that there's sensitive design for that. And there have been efforts on that front, for instance, through the provision of a podium and stepping back the tower from the properties to the east.
Okay, thank you. I have 2 questions back to back from Vicky. First one, are all units for sale or for rent?
I'll let Kevin answer that question.
It's undetermined at this time.
Okay, thank you. And then how many levels of below ground parking will there be and number of cars per level?
So I can answer that. There are a total of 167 parking spaces spread across 5 levels. 4 of those levels are typical parking floors that look like this. And I don't know the exact count, but 36 parking spaces per level on 4 levels. And then on 1 level, which is the P1 level, there are fewer, there's 16. So 5 levels total, 36 on 4 of them and 16 on 1. And that includes the barrier-free spaces as well.
Okay, thank you. Next question in the queue. I note that your plan values privacy to townhomes in Parkdale by adding trees, but how about saving privacy of Muse residents with existing laneway trees on east side? Is there a precedent for cities selling out laneways to developers?
Do you want me to take that, Fiona?
Whoever would like to, yeah.
I think Prish described the purpose of a laneway earlier. I thought he did a great job at describing the functionality of a laneway. Typically, you don't have trees in a laneway. Trees wouldn't really go well for moving vehicles or things like that are meant to be using that laneway. So there is precedent for the city selling laneways, but you have to think of this laneway purchase is really just the purchase of a below grade permanent encroachment. So Richcraft would own below the laneway and the city would own the laneway and the rights of everything above. You wouldn't really be able to plant a tree or many planter boxes or much room for vegetation within that area, because it would be a hardscape, and then below ground would be those parking levels. But again, it's not necessarily typical to have a laneway of this nature, of this urban cross section to contain trees. So it's not about privacy, it's more about function here. Hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you. Sorry, okay, so Stacy asked a question and Jeff has responded in the chat. Next question, what is the quality of air and noise coming out of the proposed laneway garage exhaust vents facing the Muse patio?
So it's
Krish, Krish, I think we have our noise consultant on the line. The way I'm set up, I can only see 4 speakers, but I think Josh is on the line, so maybe he can comment on the noise.
Great. You might be muted.
He's unmuted, but we can't hear you. Joshua Foster, that's who it is. Yeah, we can't hear them.
Yeah, it is Josh Foster. So if there's an audio problem, then Prish, why don't you go ahead and say what you were going to say?
I was going to speak to the exhaust, so it sounds terrible. The parking garage is required to have an intake and an outtake for air.
Check.
And the intake and outtake, they don't run continuously. They're on either a timer or they're on a device that measures the air quality and it moves the air accordingly. So it's not a condition that is on continuously. It's a condition that is the more that the parking garage is used. So let's say during the peak morning or the peak evening, that's when the exhaust will be, or the airflow will be at its peak. During the night and or during the day when there's less movement within the garage, there's less reason for the airflow equipment to kick on. So that's my non-engineer answer with regards to airflow and exhaust intake and exhaust. In terms, did we get Josh back?
Yeah, can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Yeah, so yeah, as you were saying there, Parrish, yeah, the inside concentration levels inside the garage need to be maintained to a certain safe level. Then that's when we turn the fans on to bring in more fresh air into the garage. So obviously, if it's going to be safe in the garage, it's going to be safe when it's exhausting out the vent shaft. And with regards to noise, the City of Ottawa has noise bylaws and the environmental noise control guidelines, and we will have to meet those sound level limits at the property line. That's 50 and 45 daytime and nighttime. And we'll be looking at all the mechanical information or all the mechanical sources within the building to make sure that all those sources are compliant. So that would include cooling towers and all that type of stuff. So those studies will be done once the mechanical system systems are designed by the mechanical engineers. And we can possibly maybe look at relocating. I don't know if we can flip the exhaust where the intake is, or other type of things that could be explored to try to minimize noise and emissions within the laneway. So those are things that could be explored.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next question. Are there visitor parking spots in the building? Where are the visitors going to park their vehicles?
So, sorry, anyone else want to take that question?
My understanding that there's 40 visitor parking spots, and they're going to be in the underground parking. That's conformance with bylaw and typical of the city of Ottawa for any of these type of buildings.
Yeah, I was just taking a closer look. So the visitor parking is typically located in the most convenient location, which is as soon as you drive in, below grade. There, you can sort of see them if you look carefully on the drawings. We got a V indicated on the parking spots, a V for visitor. So wherever the visitor parking would end and the residential parking would start, there would be a security arm, and that security arm would likely require a fob to access further into the lower levels of the parking garage. But typically, the visitor parking is required to be as close to the bottom of the ramp and as conveniently located as possible. In this case, it's in the P1 and likely the P2 level as well.
If I may just add to what Prish and Andrew have said, the way that the bylaw is written for this particular development, it will permit for the visitor parking to also be used for parking for any commercial space that will be located on the ground floor of the development. So the visitor parking would have those two functions for visitors as well as for users of the commercial space if they are coming by car.
Awesome, thank you. And the last question in the queue for right now, have the subterranean right / encroachment, is it completed or is it still up for discussion and debate?
It's not complete and it's still up for discussion and debate.
Okay, thanks, Jenny. We just got 2 more questions. So we are scheduled till 8:30. So I'll take questions over the course of the next 10 minutes. With the significant increase in 1-bedroom units over the original designs, under current bylaws, can these units be used as investment properties for use of Airbnbs, which could increase noise and traffic? I don't know where Jeff went. I don't know if he wants to comment on that or if the developer does.
I am here. The
Hey Fiona, I just turned the mute off. It's a good question, but I don't know the answer. I don't know that Airbnbs cause extra noise or not. I don't know if Ridgecraft is going to own and rent all of these units, and I don't know if a purchaser is going to buy it and move in, or if a purchaser is going to buy it and rent it out. These are strictly legal issues that the city can't necessarily police, but you know, these are kind of beyond the scope of the discussions of approving residential units. We're not necessarily here to discuss, you know, the end user, although, you know, maybe somebody has some bad experience. You can't use that to paint every scenario the same way. So I can't answer that. And if the councillor wants to enact some sort of restrictions on, you know, the end user, then he would have to have some sort of powers to do so, and I'm not sure exactly what those are.
Yeah, so Airbnb is now it's on the verge of being regulated in the city. But my understanding of what we did, I have to apologize to Cheryl particularly. They're not allowed unless it is your primary unit, unless it is your primary residence in residential zones. Is this an MC or a TM or an R that you've got zoning for? And I'm sorry, I should know that.
The zoning here, councillor, is MC.
MC. So in the MC zone, we'd have to look at the specific MC to see whether or not hotel is a permitted use. If hotel is a permitted use, then the people who own these units could rent them out on Airbnb under the regulations that are coming forward. COVID has thrown a wrench in the works, but within months. So we would have to take a look at the particular MC zone that this one is and see whether or not hotel is a public use. Sorry, is a permitted use.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Lindale is often down to 1 lane in the winter and the sidewalks impassable with wheelchair users forced to use the street to get to and from Parkdale. There are many mobility device users in this area. What is the developer going to do to minimize access issues on Lindale during construction, particularly in the winter? Is there a plan in place with the city to address the snow issues once there are hundreds of new residents?
I guess I'll start that off on the transportation perspective. We are looking at some changes to the sidewalks on the frontage of the site alone. The responsibility of developers doesn't extend typically past their property limits. So we'll see. We're working through that with the city right now to finalize. With respect to construction issues, that'll also be as we move towards the final approval of the site plan and into actually the construction staging. Those plans will be developed and have to be submitted to the city. Something that typically would fall into my realm of responsibility along with the contractor. And maybe Jenny can talk specifically about snow clearing issues.
And
I'm not gonna touch that one.
No, it's not an issue that falls within the planning department's purview. So a couple of years ago, so snow issues with respect to the hundreds of new residents. Snow clearing is just more and more and more an important issue, particularly in rapidly intensifying neighborhoods like Kitchissippi. We have raised it, the 5 urban councillors with the city, year after year. We had a great session to yell at the city with residents, I want to say 2 years ago, and they took our concerns to heart. The sidewalk clearing last year was significantly better as a result of a couple of different changes that they made, including moving to 24/7 plowing and beginning to plow the sidewalks as soon as it starts to snow rather than waiting for a big buildup. It was also a very light winter, so we don't know if that was just a fluke or whether or not the changes are such that it's going to be permanently better. But snow clearing on residential sidewalks is something that every urban councillor is on the city about. Residents need to raise it at budget time, which it is now. Tell the mayor, tell your councillor that you want better sidewalk plowing, because to Fong's point earlier, it is going to be more and more and more difficult to drive around this neighborhood. People are going to have to walk more often. And as the population ages, that is going to become the snow clearing is going to become even more critical as accessibility issues come in. So it's not an issue that Jenny or the developer can deal with tonight, but do make sure that you're raising your concerns around sidewalk plowing every budget cycle, which starts now, and I'm sure that we'll hear from Lori and Cheryl of the Hittenburg Community Association about that.
Okay, thank you. So we have run out of questions in the chat. I will give folks, if you have anything else you'd like to say or ask, please raise your hand or type it in. Otherwise, we'll move to wrap up. Again, if you think of something later, please don't hesitate to send us an email. And as well, make sure you're sending comments to Jenny as well as to our office, is always appreciated. So this will be recorded and put on YouTube shortly, so you can circulate that to anyone who may have missed this tonight. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jeff, I guess, for wrap up.
Sure. I mean, I don't have a lot tonight. Thank you very much for everyone for participating. Some of the things that I heard are on the table as sort of the flashpoint issues moving forward are going to be, should the lane be used to extend the parking? Bird-friendly glass. I also want to explore whether or not there's flexibility on the venting. And I want to take a look at the landscaping in the rear in order to take into consideration the privacy and quality of life for the residents of the Muse. Please send me an email and send Jenny an email with your feedback about the issues, because I usually forget a bunch of what I hear in the course of these meetings. Although I know Fiona will remind me. Thank you, Fiona. Yes. So thank you very much for everyone for attending. Thank you, Kevin and team, and thank you very much, Jenny, for taking the time out tonight.
No problem. I will just say, if you email me this week and I don't get back to you, I'm not ignoring you. I'm on vacation, so I'm just trying to limit the amount of time I spend checking my email. So I will get back to you as soon as I can, but it probably won't be this week.
It's a long process, so there's plenty of time if you don't hear back right away. Jenny, I'm sorry. Look at you. I much appreciate your being here. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.